Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a practical video of what to expect when you're going through OCD and anxiety recovery. I think this is very important. Almost as if it's a blueprint, kind of as if you're going to class. And I'm the professor and I'm teaching you what to expect when you're going through this process, why so many people give up, why it's so important to push through these moments, and it all comes together to reach OCD and anxiety recovery, which I've never met a treatment-resistant case. I've met lots and lots of people who believe they're treatment resistant, which makes them feel as if they're treatment resistant, people who don't put enough work in. I was one of those people in different ways, and we're going to go through and talk about how to look at what you're doing, analyze it not in the sense of how an OCD process would happen in the mind, but look at where do I have to change things if I want to give myself the best opportunity to get better. So before I go any further, please subscribe. Hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think. I'll kind of go through everything and then different stages. I just did a series on this, 0 to 6 months, 6 to 18 months, and then 18 months plus. I'm going to talk about different angles of that, but just from the overall beginning. So when OCD first chronically latches, we're going to use cases of people who developed it kind of how I did. I've had OCD my whole life, but it just latched, light bulb moment as we call it, when I was in my bedroom actually. I went up to take a pee in the middle of the night, June of 2019. I heard ringing. Went back to sleep, woke up, there was ringing still in my ear, freaked out, had a panic attack, and then my journey began. Next couple of years, probably through the back end of 2021, were really tough, sensation-based. Morphed around between tinnitus, blinking, breathing a little bit, saliva swallowing bad, thumb, belt line, clothing hyper-awareness, stomach hyper-awareness because my body dysmorphia, hyper-awareness of people on the road. That's when I don't talk about a whole lot because my anger, oh my gosh, that person got too close to me. I'll show them whose boss can X them. Fuck you. I mean, all sorts of really big problems I had, and then I felt like I was losing control. Then 6 months later, after going to numerous facilities, going to the mental hospital for 4 days, 96 hours, seeing different specialists around the country. I went to the aiming clinics, well-intentioned in Georgia. I felt hopeless. Then I introduced someone that introduced me to Rob's channel. I met Rob, I sent him a message, and I did my first one-to-one back end of 2019. Probably did 30 to 40 calls over a multi-year period for me, just because in the beginning it was really bad. I was doing sometimes 2 calls a week, emergency calls, because I was extremely suicidal. I went from this really good, overly privileged lifestyle, as I've talked about. I didn't really have a lot of problems growing up in that sense. So it was a complete loss of control in my life. And then I thought, what's going on with me? How is this happening? This isn't the way my life is supposed to turn out. And I had all these rigid beliefs that happens to a lot of people when they have a lot of things going for them. And then boom, life, just as I always say, the rug is pulled up from underneath you. And tinnitus lasted for almost 5 months. Then it went to blinking. I remember the day it went to blinking. I haven't talked about this in a while. I was driving in Ponce Inlet outside the Daytona area where I was in grad school. I just remember thinking, like, what do people habituate to? And I thought, foot on the gas pedal, hands on the steering wheel, and then my mind went blinking. And then I remember in that moment, boom, boom, boom. And then I got quiet, and Erica was next to me. What's going on? And I got back, and I was literally sprawled out in the parking lot like this. And I said, I can't stop thinking about my blinking. I can't stop thinking about my blinking. And I had a panic attack, woke up, it was still there, freaked out. I had blinking for about a month consistently. Then I was at the gym, took a sip of water, saliva swallowing. That lasted for about 18 plus months. And then in between that, I had many things as well. My body dysmorphia was brewing. So the beginning is very confusing. The most important thing in the beginning of OCD and anxiety recovery is keeping your structure as good as you can. It's understandable when you avoid things from time to time or you're doing a lot of compulsions, but the goal is to get them to go away. The beginning of anyone's journey is primarily beginning of anything, right? You know, you're learning the basics. If you're putting a house together, you're getting the material together, you're getting the wood, you're getting the framing, you're getting the blueprint, you're getting the plumbing materials, you're calling different people for concrete, the roofers, and you're trying to organize those things together. Then later on down the road, the house starts getting built together. Then people start working together. Your beliefs start shifting. Your behavior start changing. And then years down the road, or, you know, for us, but metaphorically for maybe a year for a custom home or longer, you get a beautiful house and that comes together where people live. And when you add all the belief work together, the REBT principles, the CBT principles, the exposure response prevention principles, the principles of Stoicism, other Greco-Roman philosophies. I also take principles from Epicureanism and Taoism, you know, Eastern philosophies as well. and from China and Japan. And trust me, you can find Taoism in Eastern principles all throughout Western countries as well. Middle Eastern principles as well. I've taken many principles from Islam, principles from Christianity, Catholicism, and then applying them how I see fit. I don't believe in these labels anymore, like I am this. No, you're just a person that believes in Christianity. For an example, you believe in those principles. You cannot be a Christian. It's impossible, because when you woke up in the womb and you came out, you were born for the first 4 years, you didn't even know what Christianity was, and so you couldn't have been a Christian at that time. You had to learn that belief system. You're this person now, and I see multiple different things like that, and that's brought me together to where I am today, and that's super important. But overall, I wouldn't trade my experience for anything. The first 6 to 18 months were very tough. A lot of crying, a lot of suicide talk, want to kill myself, holding knives to putting my wife through a lot. And it was a tough time, and like all of us in our lives, the police were called to my house multiple times. I didn't want to live anymore, but then I had to get it together and say, okay, how am I going to get better? That's where I read the books on the reading list. That's where I read them compulsively for a while. I always say I have my notebook right here. I keep it, it's right next to me on my desk, which I think is so interesting. It's such an interesting thing. I mean, this is a cool one, right? So February 10th, 2020, daily goal: be patient with Erica, meditate, try to work on being present. Just thinking about different things I would write down. Let's see what we got. This one is January, February, March, April 3rd. OCD is going to convince you it's real. OCD needs the principles from Ellis. Forums can be very bad for me because I had a problem with that still. These are just, it's important to see this stuff because it just goes to show you of where I was on my journey. This is a very unique one, right? This is May 5th, 2020. Second day, no video games. I would prefer to recover soon and have peace, but I don't need it. I might not be as happy as I could be without OCD, but I could still find happiness. What if I never recover? I might not nearly be as happy, but I could still be happy. Talk about grandiose thinking, underlying reasons about body dysmorphia. I didn't even cover really my body dysmorphia until like 2021 and 22. So I spun my wheels on that for a long time. Then talking about avoidance as a distraction, stuff like this. So this stuff is very important when you're going through and actually taking the time. And again, I keep this near my desk to show people on one-to-ones, what I was like. Because a lot of people ask, what were you like? Were you always really hyper? Were you always someone who put too much work in? I said, no, I had my fair share of avoidance for sure. But then I would get overwhelmed and I would say to myself, I don't want to put any more work in. And then what happens is you get to a place to where OCD kind of hums in the background for a long time. There's no timeline on this, but expect it to be there for a while. And I mean really humming in the background, really, going up and down in the sense of, okay, I'm going to probably have to live like this for a while and just focus on my structure. Maybe I have to reread the books on the reading list if I took a long time out. Maybe in order to get yourself out of the coasting position, you have to pull yourself to a place where you're saying, I'm still lagging on these particular aspects. But there's no cookie cutter approach. I mean, there are things that matter for all of us. Having something to work towards, a career, maybe a job, people that don't work, and even people who are retired. I work with 3 people right now that are over 65. Even having a nonprofit they go to, volunteering, having good habits helps a lot. Reading in general, being able to balance your finances, being able to balance in your relationship. There's all things that you can apply the principles to. It's not, and I know in the beginning, you're like, I just want to recover from POCD. I just want to recover from existential OCD. But Jim Rohn put this the best in his really good speech from 1981, Anaheim, California, which if you go on the YouTube, just type in Jim Rohn speech. It's the color one that looks old. It's 2 hours and like 6 minutes. I watch it at least once or twice a year. Rob showed this to me in 2020. And he talked, there's so many good quotes in that. He was saying, he was talking to Exxon executives. It was 1980, and they said, what are the 80s going to be like? And he said, gentlemen, they're going to be like they've always been. And our suffering is going to be like it's always been. It doesn't matter if you suffer with a new type of fear because of the world that we live in. People have been suffering with OCD since OCD is, the first cases probably came genetically, thousands or tens of thousands or even 100,000 years ago. So luckily for us, we know how to get better. And this is how it all comes together to reach OCD and anxiety recovery. So, the books on the reading list, doing exposures, doing shame attacks. Most people I work with do need a couple patches of 30-day shame attacks every single day. And then we could talk about that. Because if you just say, I'm going to do a shame attack here, one there, you just say, I'm going to get it over with, I'm going to get it over with. But if you say to yourself, look, I got to do one every day, it can really help change your perspectives. You don't have to be doing disputing on paper all the time, but it does help. It all comes together. And again, I know that It's a very long journey. It can be a painful journey, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. OCD was the best thing to ever happen to me. No doubt about it. I would not trade it for a single thing. I'm very grateful for my experience. I'm very grateful to live at a time where you can recover. Thank you for everyone who has worked with me. Thank you for everyone who has supported me. And just remember that getting the job done can be very personally validating. Not in the sense of validating where people think today where I need you to validate me. No one actually needs to validate you. But the personal satisfaction I get from doing the reading, from doing my disputing, from working on my habits and everything. And it pushes me to where I am today, which is, it's hard to even imagine how bad I really was. I was so bad for so long. And even just how calm I am now, my demeanor overall, which has changed. So thank you for the support. I hope you enjoy. As always, if you ever have any questions, you want to see me cover anything, please comment down below. I'll be more than willing to do that. And hope to see you soon. If you haven't come in for a one-to-one, please reach out to Phil@OCDrecovery.com. Please come to a webinar. They're a lot of fun. And I hope to see you there. Have a good one, everyone.